It's that one. And that one. Close that one.
Thank you so much.
Hey, pretty good. How are you doing?
What days? Yeah. How many classes? 2 or 3?
What are you thirding about?
We're gonna, it's beyond PowerPoint, so I brought a PowerPoint presentation. It's only 120 slides that I'll read through.
120?
120, yeah.
Only?
But I'm a fast reader, so.
Okay.
And then Chris Bex is gonna do the second half, and he's got about 80 slides he'll read through on PowerPoint.
Sounds good.
Yeah, 200 slides.
I printed them out too in case people want to read along.
Take notes.
But they're copyrighted, so I don't want any to leave the room. We'll collect them before people leave.
Got some binders.
With plastic things.
Very good. You like your new gig? Good.
There's a lot of students standing outside the building.
Who got those signs back?
Still on the building.
No, I saw like the CDE signs were
Those are
fire
They
bookcases.
moved with us.
Okay. Well, my name's Dan. I'm going to be one of the presenters today. And Chris Bex is the other, but he's on the phone. The pizza's courtesy of OIT. Thank you, OIT.
Absolutely. Make sure you please you've signed in so that we know you're here. Helps us keep doing this stuff. So if you would please make sure that you signed your life away, so to speak.
And that's Gary Bender.
At least I hope so. Right?
Yep.
That's
And Owen Guthrie and Sean Holland. We're downstairs with e-learning. So I don't know if people just want to maybe introduce yourself and say what your instructional area is.
sure. Before we go there, let me just do a plug for us, and
Okay.
then I'll let you get started. This is the second year of doing this. We kind of tried this last year. We did 6 of them throughout the year. The response I got was really, really good. So what we decided to do was to retain it. And we didn't do such a good job of making it every third Thursday of the month. That best of intentions, but it didn't quite work out. So we took a different approach, and we're going for every third Thursday. So it makes it a little more frequent. So it's about a 30% increase over the number we had last year. There will be different folks every time. This is a joint venture between the e-learning folks downstairs and us. As Dan pointed out, today it's going to be he and Chris Bex, who's with OIT's Training and Development Group. You guys are going to be talking about what life is beyond PowerPoint, or if there is life beyond PowerPoint. So I will turn it back to you. Whatever works. Chris probably would like 15, 20 minutes toward the end of the session. So.
Well, I chatted with Chris briefly about what we intended to do, and I don't know if Chris had a hand in picking today's topic, but I was just told, here, you're going to talk about this. So the topic is beyond PowerPoint, and there were 3 suggested pieces of software to cover. What I did immediately was start to bend the rules given to me, and I wanted to talk more generally about the kinds of things that were suggested. I was going to talk about collaborative documents, and we could start off with PowerPoint, Google Slides, their version of PowerPoint, but also written documents. And I was going to point you to some research and then show you another method of collaborative sharing that you can do with the classroom. It's called Padlet, and I've curated a bunch of information, and we could talk about either your experiences with that. I know Owen and Sean have suggested methods for faculty to do this sort of thing, but it's sort of a common area where you and your class would curate information. It's like a public town hall posting board. And then I was going to point to a reference of a teaching tip that I wrote. It's one of a series of teaching tips that we write for faculty. And this one was on effective learning, and it was about memory flashcards. And the reason why I did that is because one of the pieces of software that was sort of advertised for here called Study Blue, it's essentially an online flashcard system. And I know some people will use PowerPoint for that bit of thing, but I wanted to point to the really effective means of flashcard and the way people memorize things, and suggested software that you could use to learn that. So I'm going to use this computer to show a couple things, and I have gone old school, high tech here. I wrote down a couple
Appropriate technology.
URLs, if you could just pass them around. I should have had like a little flyer on a telephone pole, and you could have torn these off at the bottom, maybe. So I'll just, oh, and then Chris is going to talk about a few things too when he comes in here. And of course, if you have questions and your experiences, if you want to share those, that would be great too. But let me start off with, so I went to this website called Padlet, and this is the shared curated area. And what I did was, rather than like putting up a PowerPoint and just showing my class, what this site allows you to do is it gives you like, first you have to create an account. And I just signed in with my, it allows you to sign in with Twitter or Google or Facebook. So I just signed in with my UA Google ID, and I don't have to memorize any password or anything. And I created this object, which is called a Padlet, and I set the settings so that anyone with this link can go and start sharing things here. So if you're with, it might not work with a class of like 200, but I bet with a class of 15 or 20 people that you're working with through a semester, it would work just fine. So I set the settings up so that anyone with the URL can go there and start editing and stuff. So they can add things, they can subtract things, and put up new resources or whatever. So this kind of contains the information that I wanted to share today with you. And I'll start with the flashcard section. And just another thing, you can put up pictures and text and URLs, and you can probably put up other kinds of objects as well. So it will handle most of the common file types. So referring to that teaching tip I had written, if you just click on that link, this takes you to, apparently that's this text. But if we follow that text, then this goes to our iTeachU website, which is a big resource online that has a lot of faculty training opportunities and specific subject area stuff. And the whole idea of this teach tip was it talks about flashcards And so I found out that this guy named Herman Ebbinghaus back in the late 1800s was studying the way people memorize things. And it really has to do with flashcards today. And this little diagram shows essentially, if you're just learning abstract information, like this is my high school locker number, 10, 15, 23. Okay, well, the first time I had to write it down on a piece of paper, and it might stick in my mind for about 30 seconds and then it's gone. But if I look at the paper again and try it, it's going to stick in my head for maybe a minute or 2 minutes. And so every time you remember it again or look at it, it strengthens your internal brain circuitry so that it gets stronger and stronger. And the time that it takes, or the time that it's useful to you, that you can retain it, that's your memorization time. It stays with you longer. So the more times you do that, the more it strengthens and essentially you learn it. So by like maybe the end of the week, my high school locker combination, I didn't have to carry around that piece of paper anymore. And it was essentially with me throughout the entire school year. But guess what happened when at the end of May, when school gets out and I still had the same locker, when I went back in September, that combination is gone because the memory decayed. So that's essentially what happens when we learn anything. You're at a party and you try and remember someone's name in the face, 30 seconds later, Professor X, I have no idea who this person is. But the more times you use their name and etc. So the whole idea of flashcards is that you bring up a subject and you bring up a subject and what is the inertial formula for an object that's shaped like a ring? Well, it's I equals mr squared. Those are two kinds of information I'm associating with them. 30 seconds from now, I might remember it. Will I remember it in an hour? Well, that's what the flashcards are for. So flashcards work great, but they have one weakness, and it especially shows up with like foreign languages when you're trying to learn vocabulary, another sort of like just memorization technique. To be really effective, you don't need to see the flashcards that you already know. And so some people develop a technique where they have like 3 shoe boxes and they have the cards that they know really well, they put them in that shoe box. The one that they have trouble with, they move over to the shoe box where they pull the cards out of more frequently. And the more times they get them right, they move them over toward the one that they know well. So what you want to do with your students and yourself when you're learning things like foreign language vocabulary or physical formula or any kind of like factual based information that's new to you is you want to expose yourself to the ones you don't know more often and the ones that you know really well less often. And so you can do that with shoe boxes, or you can use smart software to do that. And this right here at so Anki is software that's freely available to use, and you can set up it. The nice thing about it is that there is there's already a bunch of flashcards that are available. So especially like in foreign languages or sociology or history, you want to learn about the who was the Pope in 1854 or 1584. There's probably a flashcard set for that, and you can download the Anki document, and then you can download the app for whatever platform you have, and then you can use that, and then you can share your materials up. So that's what I wanted to talk about with that. Collaborative documents. I thought I would share a couple things, and we all have available to us here at UAF UA Google Apps. So we can, with our UA IDs, sign in, create and share with your class, with colleagues, with whoever you'd like. certain kind of documents. And so, being the pedagogy freak that I am, I thought I would just link to this particular PDF, and this shows, I wonder if okay, it's going to open up. There's one thing on here that I thought was interesting. These researchers found a pretty high correlation factor that what this chart shows is that on one end of the spectrum, you have a document that only you edit and you control. You don't share it with anyone. Your ownership level on that particular document is really high. But if you have a document that you share with folks and you let them edit, while your ownership of it goes down, the perceived value and learning through that process of creating a work, going through a draft, receiving peer comments, actually letting peers or other people edit the document with corrections and comments, your ownership goes way down. It's like, whoa, this isn't exactly mine anymore. But the perceived learning from that goes way up. And so that's what this article does. That's what the researchers showed through their work.
Let's get a quick question.
Yeah.
You happen to know whether, for that research, how who is participating in the shaping of the document affects its shared value? Because I wonder if I'm sharing a document I created and my students are then participating in shaping it, whether the perceived value goes up when they know that it's other students who are editing it, whose maybe expertise isn't as high or their background knowledge isn't as high.
What they did was they used Google Docs, and they shared peer-to-peer, so it must have been classmates sharing written samples. I bet that would be it's a good point. I mean, if you're just sharing it out with random users on the internet, and that's the perceived learning value might be different in that situation.
Although collectively, we have that knowledge, whereas individuals, but I think there's value in having a group instead of an individual, even though that individual may be as an instructor, you certainly have a certain level of knowledge that is often slightly higher than your students. But if your students collaborate together as a group, they may be able to get to that. Maybe even surpass.
Yeah, I was just trying to clarify whether it's peer-to-peer collaboration or sort of teacher and student collaboration. That makes sense.
It was peer-to-peer.
Okay.
But the model and the technology of sharing a Google Doc with a class or a peer group, that would allow, I mean, you're the instructor, so you have to pick and choose what you think is instructionally best through experience, and maybe lean on research a little and try different techniques. But you have to pick out which one is there. The technology will let you do all sorts of things. Is there anyone here who doesn't have experience in Google Slides? Nope. Okay, so you haven't seen slides yet? No. Okay. Well, Chris, do you know whose account or whose machine this is? Is this just a generic?
It's just generic. What do you need, Dan?
Oh, well, I thought I would open up a Google slide or open up a PowerPoint, try and open up a PowerPoint and take a look at it, just convert it to a Google slide. Maybe instead of going through all those things, I'll just describe what I would intend is like maybe.
I use one in training all the time. I use Google Slides.
Yeah, you want to come up and drive for a little bit, and I'll just suggest an activity. I'm sure you've all run exercises where you give a little bit of a lecture, and then you push the students out into little groups, and then they all come back and do a report. Well, one of the things that you can do with Google Slides, if you have it shared with everyone in the classroom and they have some devices of some sort, is before you begin the class, you create a Google
Can I log
slide.
you out, Gary?
What?
Can I log you out?
Pull up, do it through Firefox.
Okay. One idea might be to create a Google slide with a bunch of blank slides in there, and you could even pre-format, like slides 1 through 4 would be for the first group, slides 5 through 8 would be with the second group. And so the student, you can save time in your class by already structuring out the groups, let the students work, and maybe for 10, 15 minutes of the class, they're filling out the content simultaneously. So all these slides are being built in the class together. And then the reporting part is actually fairly easy. At that point, then you go back and the slides are all there. The students can already copy it and bring it back to their drive. And so that might be something that you could do. And I don't know if we could do something similar here. Maybe you could just create a slide document, Chris.
Oh, a new one?
Yeah, just create a slide document, maybe like with 10 blank pages.
Sure.
And Owen, would you, if you just share the link out to a few people, or make it generally. So one of the problems you might have in a class is you're going to get a long URL like that, and that's nearly impossible for students to look on a screen and copy that down. So if you're in another document, maybe if you have a shared space, you could copy that URL and put it in. So like if we were on that Padlet, I could put it there. There's another way you can do things. If you notice the bottom URL that I put there, that's an example of a shortened URL. Anyone know what shorteners are? If you got a big long URL like that Google Doc, you can paste that into a shortener and it will give you essentially a much shorter URL. And usually if you have an account or something, you can customize it. So instead of some random letters, I just customize the bottom URL there to say Padlet. So it actually makes sense. So someone can just type in effectively to their browser and get to the document. So what he's done here is just created a document with a bunch of slides. And if you share that out, Chris, with maybe me, Owen, and Sean, and I don't know if you guys can bring computers, but we can get in there. Oh, good. So he's using Bitly as a URL shortener.
So if you go to bit.ly /1 capital Q J C U X and lowercase n, you should get to this particular.
So that's obviously a shareable URL. You could put that up in big letters on the front of your screen if you already didn't have a shared space with.
Can you read that one more time?
Yeah, hang on. I see that the default was view, so I'm gonna actually change that. Sorry. So bit.ly /1 Q J C U X N.
The last letter is N.
N as in Navy. Yeah.
Okay, since it's is this the UX capital? It's all capital.
It's all capital except the last one. I go to this one here, which should be in this browser. Not put that in there.
Everywhere.
This is, yeah. So this is under Gary's account. And he has full access to this. And this is happening in real time, and you can see, you know, while I'm logged in, so is Dan, so is Owen, so is Sean. We can talk back and forth, and so is Gary at this point.
So if your students are doing this, this would free you to be able to go around and visit with the groups, or you could actually do this asynchronously over a period of days if you're teaching an online class, or you could do it synchronously even on Google Hangouts. You could definitely share the document in one screen and look at people and they could ask you questions. So can you click on the comments thing there? So you can see Sean and Sean has started to comment on a few things.
And you can reply.
So this definitely goes way beyond the mode of I'm the source of all knowledge and I'm going to present to you the greatest gift I have ever compiled through this PowerPoint slide. And here you go. You know, so this gives the students a chance to show what they can gather and gives you an instant opportunity to assess what they know. You can see if there's a weakness either in the group or individuals of what they're putting up. You can do the same thing with Google Docs. You wouldn't have the slide method, but students could just work and type in paragraphs simultaneously. Same idea.
I like the idea. I wonder what would be prevalence of, I guess students could do this on their phones, perhaps more difficultly than on a computer or tablet.
Use a smaller screen, smaller interface, but same functionality mostly.
I was just wondering, I'm a new faculty here, so I don't know how many students have laptops or tablets and what are the patterns of them kind of bringing those to class or not. I don't know if anybody has any experience.
What is your
Everybody
experience?
has one. I mean, when I teach something that's really technically intensive, there's rooms that you can reserve in the library and elsewhere. But even without that, if I know that we're going to be doing something like that, if I just say in Blackboard or something, you tell them, bring a laptop or a tablet or whatever, enough people will that you can, I mean, it's a matter of do we want to carry it around or whatever, but it's a small campus. So when I've done that, enough people come with that you can do small groups. My experience.
Gary, do you still have the iPads that you lend out from time to time?
We do. Our office does take some training with us, for instance, on use of iPads. We do have a set that we lend out for projects, or if you've got something in mind and spend some time with me talking about it, outlining how what the pedagogy is going to be, how you're going to use it, we can load it to your first semester.
So yeah, there's opportunities around.
The person who's done a lot of that is Priya Dunlap in the chemistry department. She's a great resource to talk to about how well that works. She's going to do 2 different classes.
Can I make a plug for something that I don't benefit from at all? A piece of software called Scalar. It's SCALAR, and it's a kind of a similar thing, but basically it's a collaborative project type thing, and it's sort of like a book. You can have different chapters, and then that reticulates out, right? So it's not like a linear thing like this would be, but it has a navigational thing, sidebar, or however you want to arrange it, which is good for not a single class, but for like a final project. If you have a group type thing, they actually can have a project that's not a paper or a presentation, but is a published kind of book like thing, and you can use media and all that. So it's a nice piece of software. It's
Nice.
Stanford, I think, does it, or something. It's not commercial software. It's free. Yeah, Scalar.
Yeah, I've seen initial research for a large paper done in a document where an instructor starts usually with an introduction or type of assignment, what they're looking for, and says to their students, well, you can take it from here. You all have access. You can all add information there, do so, and come out with an 80-page document that has links and videos and images and all content that is a much richer experience and probably a much larger research paper that was created by the whole class versus probably 20 or 30 students who created each their own and not working together. And Google Docs, as well as many other tools, show you history, who added what. You can usually filter by which user, which person added things, or how much a user added, if any. So there's lots of ways to help you as an instructor with that, as well as the students.
What other kind of questions do you have?
Well, I wanted to ask a question about the flashcards. Is it only documents, or is it possible to have them be video?
I think it was only text, and I've only seen text and images that let you associate that. But you could at least put the links to the text. I mean, the link to the video there. What were you envisioning? Like show
Well,
a
we
video?
teach American Sign Language, so it would be showing a sign.
How
I'm moving. I don't know where you'd find them.
I would say you could probably use an animated GIF of so whatever it is. I don't know any signs.
Yeah.
So animated GIFs are a nice tool when you have a service that only takes an image. So put the animated GIF there, and it shows it's basically stop frame animation.
GIF.
GIF.
GIF. I guess we don't really know what that is.
It's an image that moves. So if you had a cloud with raindrops coming out.
Okay.
Remember, like in the Harry Potter movies, they'd have the newspaper with like the little loops that would go over and over again. Those are essentially magical animated GIFs, but we have them in our web browser. So. Yeah.
So we would actually create the cards ourselves and then put them to the site.
Yes.
I know you said that you could search for some, but I don't know if there would be any out there that are already made.
You would probably
this
be
way.
contributing to the rest of the world if you came up with if you made some good GIF files. That's what the work is going to be.
It sounds like and I don't know.
Making those files.
Yeah.
I think
But that
there's
would be
some
awesome.
readily available services that will let you take a movie or even a YouTube and let you generate a GIF from that. In fact, I think
So if you made the GIFs, would you, you could keep them just for your group, right? Or no? Or once you put them on here, then anybody can access them?
I don't know about
That
Anki.
was the
Could
question.
let me. I see the. Okay, so I generally, when I think something ought to have been built by now, I just go and ask the Oracle. I Google where this thing where it is, or it'll give me something related to it. So I remember somewhere that there's services that you can just provide a YouTube video and it will create a GIF for you. And so let's YouTube. Okay, let's go here and so I've copied the URL right there. And now I'm going to come back and I'm at this place called GIF Soup. We'll see how this works. I don't want to do this. So let's try another one. So it looks like it's trying to get that loop right there. So you can see my method. I have a really low tolerance for sites that want me to create a whole user, and that I don't have time for it. So I went to the second one, and hopefully this will at some point give me that quick little animation. So here we have a GIF. Of course, they put their little thingy in there. And I could download it. And with it turns out it's 1.3 meg. So you could take just basically any random video and create a GIF.
Or make your own video.
Yeah, make your own.
As long as you can point to it. And the point here is that that's not a video file; it's an image file. It's like it has the same file type as a simple picture. It just has a little bit of motion.
Animation to it.
Yeah.
It's like a JPEG that moves.
Or GIF that moves. Message.
Yeah.
So depending upon the what you're trying to show, you may want to go to actual vector drawings or draw out individual stuff. You know, it depends. If the hand motion is too quick, then video might not capture it, or that does it by like interval.
Right, it seemed like it was kind of broken up.
Right. You may find yourself that this solution doesn't work, and you might have to go to some actual editing software. It might be better to just show the video file format. But I bet there's a clever way to match video to some sort of list of choices where you could select.
Yeah.
Good question. Makes me think about a couple things that I'd like to find out.
I mean, there's online dictionaries you can go to and see the signs. It's just that they're not sorted for what you want. You know? No, they're oh yeah, they're all videos. Yeah, yeah. So you can go there and just like, I mean, it's like A, B, C, D, E all the way, and then you click on A's and find the one you want, and then you click on it. But it's not sorted for, you know, like a one specific class.
Well,
and I don't know if you can. I don't think you can just copy those over. You know, pick out the ones you want.
I have some favorite gifts of mine here, and I'm going to see if I can do this really quick.
And while you're doing that, let me switch gears a minute here because I want to include another perspective on this whole process as well. So, Chris, you want to take a few minutes and
Oh, sure.
talk about another way to look at the same issue?
Yeah, and kind of going beyond PowerPoint, and I was asked to talk about, or what do you think, Chris? And so me, Gary, all of us in training and development do trainings, and so we use presentations, not necessarily PowerPoint presentation. And making an effective presentation, I often see PowerPoint slides or slides, period, whether they're Google Slides or others. There's some benefits to, there's other presentation, slide presentation software tools out there. Who uses something like a slideshow in lecture or in presentations?
Everybody.
Classes, yeah. I see them all the time. The biggest thing I often see is slides that are too full of information that take away from your presentation. Students aren't there to watch your slide. The slide's often more for the presenter. At least that's what I find. And I can just have notes. And don't know if any of you have heard of the rule of six. For the rule of six for PowerPoint. No more than 6 bullets on a slide. No more than 6 words per bullet. And you have white space in your slide. So you can start with a grid. And then everything inside the main component, that's the rule of 6. The rest is a rule of nothing. You don't put anything there. Okay, you may put a title at the top, and maybe a slide number at the bottom. But that's it. That's all. I sat a couple of days ago through an exercise with a committee that is putting a slideshow together. The further we got in the presentation, the smaller the font got on the slides. That's a memo. Give it to me in a document format, but if that's the reason that we're there, I could read that. And that's not why I'm there. That's not why your audience is there, whether they're students or someone else. They're there to hear you because you've got the knowledge, you've got the content. They want to hear you do the presentation, not the slideshow. And so that brings me to, do you need a slideshow? To give you an example, I had an old farmer come to me at a conference where I was doing some tech support for. He handed me a USB stick. So here, that's mine. Can you just make sure you put those up on the screen? I said, sure. That's your PowerPoint? He goes, nope. You know how to slide through photos? Yep, I do. He goes, 25 pictures. Just put up the first one. I'll nod. You can do the second one. Okay. So all he did was photos. And he talked. He gave a story. Because that's what the people want. They were there for him. Not necessarily for his pictures. They were there for him. They wanted to listen to him because he had the content. In your classes, that's the reason your students are there. They're there to hear from you, not necessarily from a slideshow. They can certainly be supportive. I use slides or presentation materials in my training, and they're there as supporting what I'm bringing to that presentation or that training. But it isn't, that isn't it. I mean, if there's people ask me, well, don't you have a tutorial for that? Yep, I do, right here. Or yeah, if you go to the website, it's right there. And so there's different ways to try and engage your audience. Could be with pictures, could be with a video, could be with something that seemingly is unrelated. I watched a presentation by a guy who had a picture up of a green door of a coffee shop. And it sat there for 15 minutes while he talked about starting a business. What was that in relation to the damn door? It's a big, bright green door of what looked like a shop, but it would turn out it was a coffee shop. He goes, that's where the idea started. I still remember that story 3 years ago. Why did you have a picture of a door that isn't your shop, isn't your business, and has, as far as I can tell, no relation to the tech company startup you created or the product and services you handle? Oh, well, that's where the idea came about, and we sat down together with a friend, and on my laptop, I created the business I now run. Okay. But it was odd and unusual, and still for him related to his business and related to his presentation, even though I definitely didn't think so initially. So there's different ways to help your audience kind of engage with that and remember your presentation, remember your story. And so that, I mean, that's something to think about if you go beyond PowerPoint and still do your lecture or do your presentation. Still with some, what I would consider supporting materials, and whether they are a PowerPoint slideshow or photos or video or anything else for that matter, or absolutely nothing, I think is up to you. But what do you think? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Like from an audience or a student perspective, I think like less is more. Like being able to kind of link a photo or an image is probably really good for memory. You started by saying you think that teachers often use PowerPoints more for themselves than for their students. And I totally agree. I started creating PowerPoints in my classes because previously I didn't. And I'd have these great discussions in class. I was like in the moment, and I wasn't kind of relying on this thing, but they were exhausting classes. It took a lot of energy to kind of do all of this without the guide. And so I very much do use my PowerPoints to guide me, especially when I'm going to create a class and might not teach it. Who knows when I'll teach it next time, but if I've created the PowerPoint, like I'm sort of prepped for it if I teach it 3 years from now. And so I was wondering what your sort of advice or thoughts are on how I can stay prepared in a way that if I like create some material, is it holding some notes up there when I'm doing it, or some other form of helping me keep track of what I want to say? Because 2 years from now, I'm not sure I'm going to remember the story for the photo.
Yeah. And so I use, and I used to be the same way. Don't think that I've been doing it. I used to be faculty as well. I've been faculty, full-time faculty, and I've been doing this for almost 8 years. But I didn't used to. I used to use PowerPoint the same way as an adjunct. I had no clue what I was doing when I got started. And so what I do now is I still create most of my presentations in Google Slides. But the slide may take up the entire, will be taken up entirely by a photo. And I transfer the stuff that used to be on that slide into the notes field. And I print those off. And they can be 2 pages long for the same slide. You know, the notes field has no limitation. You can make them as long as you'd like. And so that's what I do. And I have those there. And especially for classes, if you're doing kind of a lecture or presentation, you don't, like my trainings, we do several trainings a week. And so the content eventually becomes enough for me that I no longer need my notes. But if you're doing one a semester on that topic, or maybe even once a year, yeah, I think your notes can be really valuable there.
I just throw out there, I think there's somewhat of a continuum on a spectrum. And I'll just give an extreme example. My daughter had a history course institution down the bottom of my high school. And her question said, your instructor would go through PowerPoint
presentation each class period, and each slide was solid words, just solid. And you started slide 1, and they would have to copy the slide. So the classroom assigned a copy. And as soon as people were done, go to slide 2. That would be the whole class every day, all semester long, all year long, copying the slides. And that's, I think, the extreme end of PowerPoint misused, right? Why not just hand it? I mean, they have a textbook. What are you gaining, right? And I understand that the teachers are gaining a lot, being classroom control. They have something to do it, they better do it, otherwise they can't go move around because they're going to miss out. That, I think, is a pedagogical use of the tool. We all agree with. That's pretty horrible. Look, I heard that. I was like choked up.
I've got 2 things here. One, this is a class that Owen and I are working on, and what the instructor does, and he's not near that high school Western Civ teacher with the words. So what he does is he puts his slides up for students, and then he embeds it on the website. And he originally made these in PowerPoint. He imported them into UA Google Slides, and then he just shared the link, and you can put them in a Blackboard or WordPress or wherever you'd like. And so the students don't have to feel like they're writing in the class, because they can go fetch it later. The important thing isn't memorizing exactly what's on the slide, it's more of discussing what's on the slide in the class, so it brings the conversation up a little bit. And also the nice thing, when you embed the slides into another place, if you make changes, as often does, he'll make a change while he's in the class, or as a result of a question, he'll insert some slides and answer the questions right there. And then he doesn't have to run out to his website and update it because he made changes in class, because it's embedded. And this WordPress instance is really pulling the information from his Google slide. The information's already there. So he's assured that the students already have the updated information. So while Chris was talking, I went and grabbed one of my favorite animated GIFs of President Obama and Vice President Biden. And so this program only accepted images, but I already had an animated GIF that I was interested in. And so I just put that right inside there. And then in true flashcard sense, when I click on show the answer, it gives me some text and tells me what's there. So you could do the same thing with animations of like sign language vocabulary, and then put whatever the answer is there. And I tried to share this up to the web. Their web interface may not do, I think it only does text. So, but you could share this file and let people use it with a desktop-based version of their software.
Any?
Are any of you aware, following with what David was saying and what you were saying in terms of being able to make use of the PowerPoint for preparing a course, having it prepared for the next time? What the limitation that I find in PowerPoint is about 5 or 6 years ago, I made that transformation of taking all the words that were up here, transforming them down into notes, using images on the slides. But then what the limitation that I have that I really want is down in the notes section is to have the links and the handouts and the things that supplement that we're going to do in that day. You know, here's the activity and here's the discussion, and I can script all that out. But when it comes to something like actually having the handout there, as opposed to going to my file drawer and trying to find where I put that handout, etc., is there a platform, you know, that is a presentation type platform where in your notes section or whatever you can paste your handouts in there? You can put your links to the YouTube video that maybe you don't want to necessarily show it, but it certainly helped me in preparing for the lecture. And when I prepare for it again 2 years from now, I want to go back to that video and watch it again, kind of thing. So just wondering, is there a platform that you can capture all that stuff within the notes section kind of thing?
Why not put it on the slide? If it's like a link to
Oh,
something
that was
you can
just
use.
a handout would be a better example. Let's say I have a handout that's a Microsoft Word document, or a handout that I've copied from something somewhere, but just something that I want to copy and hand out in class instead of having to have a file.
I could be wrong, but I think the Google Slide interface allows you to put in links and format some of your bulleted lists and things like that. As far as
You
I
could
know,
link to any file type, right? As long as you had it
Yeah.
with the presentation, it doesn't have to be a link to a URL web page. It could be a link to a file, like a text document or something like that.
and
But
then
it
the
would
other,
be a link. You couldn't put that document
Yeah, you could.
in the file.
Are you looking for something that you can actually physically hand out in class or just refer to virtually? Like if you've gone paperless, is that okay to just give the students a link that they could go and get the document?
I think that's an embedded assumption of where I should go.
I'm just one. I mean,
Yeah.
so is it a piece of paper or a virtual?
Right now, I'm talking about a piece of paper that I would like to hand out in my physical classroom so that students have a handout of something that's super extra special awesome.
so I have a document that I have a folder for my training plan, and that also includes the presentation and any handouts in Google Drive. And so that's how I do that. All of that's related, and the document often links to my presentation in that same folder.
And you do that through what?
Google Drive.
Yeah.
So I have a.
Right.
If I can show you that. So in my Google Drive here, like I just did ones for some training. So for my training, I designed some training specifically for CTC at their request. And so besides the fact that in that folder I have their schedule and what they wanted, I have in here, this is the actual slideshow, but alongside that this is my training plan, which is just a Google Doc. But that gives me a handout on what we're going to do and how you could see that as a lesson plan, I guess, if you wanted to. That's all located in the same spot as, this is the presentation that goes along with that.
So as long as, if you have things in a folder, right, correct me if I'm wrong, if you have your presentation in there and any other ancillary stuff, if that's in the folder, then you can link to it and it's all part of the presentation.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not going to give physical handouts, then in your notes you can just say, give out handout now.
And that's what I have now.
Yeah.
I just don't have a handout because it hasn't been scanned in. It's just something that I've just used over the years, and so then I just have to go find it.
And
Yet,
Put it all in one folder for
just-
the presentation.
So I just try to put a link. This is just a link to Blackboard. But that link did show up in my notes field in Google Slides. So if you had links to a video, YouTube video, or another place on the web, articles, anything that you want to refer to, you can
And
certainly
those-
put that in
are
there.
those live links or just
Yeah.
cut and paste?
They're live
Okay.
links.
I know that's great.
So I mean, and that's just like I said. I don't know if you got to do what works for you, but that's what appears to work for me. That's how I've organized that.
Mhm. Thanks, Chris.
So yeah.
Well, I hate to say it, but we're almost out of time. But I do want to say thanks for coming. This was our first one. We have another one coming up October 8th, which will be moving toward the paperless office, which I think Sean and I are
Is that the
talking about.
third
So
Thursday?
That's not the third Thursday.
It's
The third, yeah.
it's
There were-
close. We try. We have so many conflicting dates to try and deal with this. But we're trying. Let's see. let's whatever.
Is it a Thursday anyway?
It is a Thursday.
And we tried to stick to Thursdays. I'm pretty sure we got all Thursdays this year. So.
Awesome.
Anyway, thanks for coming. Make sure, please, if you haven't had a chance to sign in on the yellow pad over there, please do that because the dean counters like to know that the funds are being appropriately spent. And if you have suggestions or
either
ideas
do
for
some
future ones,
Prezi?
just send us
Yeah.
an email and say, hey,
I like it.
thought about this topic.
Prezi's been decent.
I haven't done it yet, but I'm thinking of using that because it lets you. It's not linear. You know what I mean? You can sort of do like a hub, with spokes going out or whatever. I think you could actually make readings out of that. You know.
You can.
I mean, you could be like start here in the center and then explore.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to try to do that this class.
Yeah, it's a nice tool.
Not just as a presentation application, but as like readings.
Right.
So that'll be.
Yeah.
So, because, sometimes things are not really linear. It's like you have some central concept
Yeah,
and then here's
exactly.
an example, here's
Most
an
things aren't
example.
linear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I've used it before. It doesn't,
I
to
used
me,
it,
I
but
often-
for the most part, other than the way visual thing worked, it really was basically a PowerPoint. I mean, I
Yeah.
still did it as a linear thing, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
so I don't know that it really changed my style.
Right.
But
Sources to
Yeah.
support.
Yeah, I often say it doesn't really matter what the tool is, as far as I'm concerned. I
well,
don't.
PowerPoint really doesn't let you do that, right? I mean,
PowerPoint
you
will not
march
let you do
through
that.
slide by slide by slide. You can't, with Prezi, you can just sort of go like, oh, that made me think of like over here in this
Yeah.
circle of things. You can just go jump around if you want. But
Yeah.
you really
You couldn't
can't
do that.
You can't do that.
You were here present.
But I don't know if that works.
But yeah, that's
This, I spent a long time, but and I don't use Google Slides, but
Yeah, let me think of some ideas.
that
and
kind
think
of
of some
collaborative,
ideas and
But I know in PowerPoint you used to be able to, you had your presentation view, you had your notes view to print. But didn't it also just have like outline where all the it's just like hierarchical, big heading, little heading, right? Yeah.
you can do the same thing.
Because I was thinking that's like what he was talking about. I think if your point is to organize class, make sure you hit all the points you want. Here's the flow. Go ahead and make a PowerPoint presentation. Let's print out in that view.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and that's possible both in Google Slides as well as.
Yeah, I figured it
She was the third of the three persons.
Yeah. Thanks for coming.
But then she's like, okay, you guys run with it.
it helps us in terms of knowing that we have enough seats. Because I really, 16 is about the max.
Okay, so, like, how do I make,
So he and I
Just
just
send us an email.
kept moving forward in our own classes and just kept supporting each
Yeah.
other.
it was really helpful.
Yeah.
See, Chris.
Yeah,
That was easy.
And
Yeah.
then
Glad-
Yeah, oh yeah, this
That's
is
one
pretty
reason
relaxed. Like
It's
that.
gonna be here, just,
Thanks.
And then there was another
See ya.
group, so Carol would be a
Okay.
good resource.
briefly about it before.
I have a question for you, Chris.
Yes.